What's up, everybody? FTWitachi here. You know what it is. Thank you all very much for tuning in to our pre-patch to Shadowlands Destruction Warlock guide. We will be covering every single aspect of the spec, from talents for both PvP and PvE. You'll also be given the stat priorities, personal buffs, which include gems, enchants, and consumables, the rotations, as well as the MISC, which are expansion specifics, which we currently still have access to Azerite traits and essences. So we will be getting into every single aspect of the spec. I have probably already released my Demonology Warlock guide by now. I believe the second release is going to be this one, which is Destruction. Just to give you all a little bit of a background, it is a DPS spec with the primary stat of Intellect, a Master of Chaos who calls down fire to burn and demolish enemies. Preferred weapons will be staff, wands, daggers, and swords, and main abilities are Incinerate, Chaos Bolt, Immolate, Conflagrate, Rain of Fire, and Summon Infernal. I've been playing a Warlock for about 16 years now, with Destruction definitely being my second favorite spec of the three. Very, very comfortable with all three specs, but I do kind of like Destruction because, unlike Demonology, Destruction has some massive, massive numbers that you can see being put onto your screen, especially coming from the spell of Chaos Bolt. Demonology is more of an overtime summoning of demons, and Affliction is more of a damage overtime of dots onto the target, with a little bit of a different playstyle, which is why I love Warlock so much, because we have three different specs that do three different things. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into a Destruction Warlock. Getting into the stat priorities for a Destruction Warlock, with your main stat, of course, already being explained as Intellect, which you're going to be finding on every single piece of gear that you have. When it comes to the secondary stats, I currently have Mastery over Haste, which equals to Crit, and then we got Versatility at the bottom of that tier. If I did have a choice between Haste and Crit, I would definitely take Haste over Crit, but either or works, especially when it comes to item level. That would just be a preference for me. But then again, as a secondary stat, I do strongly suggest you max out as much Mastery as you possibly can. So again, you got Intellect over Mastery over Haste, which equals to Crit, but again, I take Haste over Crit, as well as Versatility being the bottom of the tier. Alright, moving on to personal buffs, which include gems, enchants, and consumables for a Destruction Warlock. You're going to go with the Leviathan Eye of Intellect. At least make sure you have one Intellect gem socketed. And then after that, you just want to go ahead and stack as much Masterful Sea Current, which is the currently highest Mastery gem that is available to us. For the rings, you want to go with Enchant Ring of Mastery. For the weapons, you're going to want to go with Machinist's Brilliance. For the flask, you're going to want to go with Endless Fathoms. For the potion, you're going to want to go with Potion of Intellect. For the food, you want to go with the Mastery buff of Abyssal Fried Soul. And if you have access to them, you can buy them from the auction house. You want to go ahead and get a rune, which is called the Battle Scarred Augment Rune. Or if you have access to the Lightning Forged Augment Rune from a Reputation vendor. Next up, we're going to be getting into the miscellaneous section for a Destruction Warlock. This is going to be covering the expansion specifics that are currently active. We still have activations for Azerite traits as well as essences, which are Battle for Azeroth expansion specifics. So we're going to go ahead and mainly focus on essences because, again, both of these are actually going to be removed or not really useful when Shadowlands gets launched. And not going to go too much into deep details on Azerite traits. Strongly just go ahead and suggest and pick up what you can for right now. But it is a lot easier for me to go ahead and explain for you with essences because those are very, very easy to come by at this moment in time. So we're going to go ahead and start off, of course, with our major essence of Vision of Perfection. This is for any situation. This is the best essence that any Destruction Warlock can use. And when it comes to minor essences, I have a couple that you can choose from. Of course, starting from the top, I strongly suggest you have Breath of the Dying, especially when you've unlocked rank 3, the Crucible of Flame, the Conflict and Strife, as well as Essence of the Focusing Iris. Use any of those four as your three minors, but I strongly suggest them in that specific order. So if you can, have Breath of the Dying, Crucible of Flame, and Conflict of Strife, but if you don't have and you're missing one of those, go ahead and swap it out with Essence of the Focusing Iris. Now, in an AoE situation, you're going to want to switch out your major essence of Vision of Perfection with the Purification Protocol. And once you have done that, swap out one of your minor essences with the major essence of Vision of Perfection. So very, very simple. For example, your new major essence is going to be the Purification Protocol. Your minor essences will be Vision of Perfection, which was your previous major essence, Breath of the Dying, Crucible of Flame, Conflict of Strife, or Essence of the Focusing Iris. Destruction PvP and PvE talents. Starting off at level 15 at tier 1. Going from left to right, we've got Flashover. Passive ability, Conflagrate deals 25% increased damage and grants an additional charge of backdraft. We got Eradication, which is a passive ability. Chaos Bolt increases the damage you deal to the target by 10% for 7 seconds, as well as Soulfire, 40-yard range, 45-second cooldown, 200 mana, 3.3-second cast, burns the enemy's soul, dealing 3320 fire damage, and applying Immolate. Also generates 1 Soul Shard. The Soulfire is cool, but it doesn't compare to the other two, and these other two are also passive abilities, so if you can... I mean, yes, I would love to cast Soulfire, don't get me wrong. I hate when there's a tier row and one's an ability and 2 of them are passive. I want to pick up the ability. I like casting new spells, but sadly Soulfire is not good compared to the other two. Flashover is better compared to Eradication. I strongly suggest you go with Flashover. It is a DPS increase in that first tier row. At tier 2 at level 25, you got Reverse Entropy. Passive ability, your spells have a chance to grant you 15% haste for 8 seconds. Internal Combustion, passive ability. Chaos Bolt consumes up to 5 seconds of Immolate's damage over time effect on your target, instantly dealing that much damage. Shadow Burn, 1 Soul Shard, instant cast, 10-second recharge, 40-yard range. Blast the target for 1000 Shadow Flame damage, gaining 50% crit strike chance on targets that have 20% or less health. Restores 1 Soul Shard if the target dies within 5 seconds, maximum of 2 charges. Internal Combustion is absolute trash. Reverse Entropy is your best DPS option and best DPS choice. However, I do understand some people like and prefer Shadowbird, especially old school Destruction Warlocks in PvP only situations, but overall, Reverse Entropy is the way to go. Tier 3, it is very situational. Demon Skin, passive. Your Soul Leech Absorption now passively recharges at a rate of 0.5% of maximum health every 1 second and may now absorb up to 15% of maximum health. Burning Rush, instant, increases the movement speed by 50% but also damages you for 4% of your maximum health every 1 second. Movement impairing effects may not reduce you below 100% of normal movement speed, lasts until cancelled. And Dark Pact, instant 1 minute cooldown. Sacrifices 20% of your current health to shield you for 250% of the sacrifice health, plus an additional 289 for 20 seconds, usable while suffering from crowd control impairing effects. Strongly suggest Demon Skin over Dark Pact. One's an ability, Demon Skin is just passive, and overall Demon Skin is the better of the two. You also have Burning Rush, which doesn't correlate to the other two abilities, but for example, you are in a raid, you need to get from point A to point B really, really quickly, and you do find yourself needing this ability. I strongly suggest you go with Burning Rush. Let's say, for example, you're in a mythic dungeon, you need that extra speed, go ahead and pick up Burning Rush. Again, one of the two talents from this one would either be Demon Skin for defensive abilities or Burning Rush for movement speed increase. Dark Pact I wouldn't really choose unless you just want a bubble animation and ability to click. Tier 4, 35, you got Inferno, passive. Rain of Fire damage is increased by 20% and has a 20% chance to generate a Soul Shard fragment. Fire and Brimstone, passive. Incinerate now also hits all enemies near your target for 40% damage and generates 2 Soul Shard fragments for each additional enemy hit. Cataclysm, 100 mana, 40-yard range, 30-second cooldown, 1.7-second cast. Calls forth a Cataclysm at the target location, dealing 1423 Shadow Flame damage to all enemies within 8 yards and afflicting them with Immolate. There's only one talent choice and one talent you can choose from this tier, and that is Cataclysm. The other two, no can do. Next up at 40, the next tier you got, again, situational talents. Dark Fury, passive. Reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fury by 15 seconds and increases its radius by 2 yards. This is very situational. For example, you're in a raid, You have adds or mobs in a boss fight that you need stunned, especially at rapid succession rates. You can reduce your cooldown of Shadow Fury and increase the yard with Dark Fury, so that would be very great in that type of situation. Epic Battlegrounds, Dark Fury is kind of nice as well because there's no limit like there is with Howl of Terror. I just much rather have Dark Fury rather than Howl of Terror, especially with GCDs. But again, situational. Mortal Coil, 200 mana, 20-yard range, instant, 45-second cooldown, horrifies an enemy target into fleeing, incapacitating them for 3 seconds, and healing you for 20% of maximum health. Very nice in 1v1 duels, 2v2 arenas. When you, when you don't have a healer, you go double DPS. 3v3 arenas, no healer, triple DPS. It even helps out. I still strongly suggest Mortal Coil in any arena given situation. Also in PvE, both mythics as well as raiding situations where you don't really need to stun. It definitely helps out your healer with just grabbing Mortal Coil. Even on a boss fight, you don't need to incapacitate them, just get your healing to 20% of maximum health. Very, very helpful, very, very nice. 45, next tier, got Roaring Blaze, passive ability. Conflagrate increases your channel, Demon Fire, Immolate, Incinerate, and Conflag damage to the target by 25% for 8 seconds. Reign of Chaos, passive. While your initial Infernal is active, every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to summon an additional Infernal that lasts 8 seconds. Grimoire of Sacrifice, instant 30-second cooldown, sacrifices your demon pet to power, gaining its command demon ability and causing your spells to sometimes also deal 346 additional shadow damage. Lasts 1 hour until you summon a demon pet. In this tier, there's only one viable option, and that is Reign of Chaos. Last tier at 50, Soul Conduit, passive. Every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded. Channel Demon Fire, 40-yard range, 21-second cooldown, 150 mana channeled ability. Launches 15 bolts of Fell Fire over 2.5 seconds at random targets afflicted by your Immolate within 40 yards. Each bolt deals 153 fire damage to the target and 61 fire damage to nearby enemies. Last but not least, Dark Soul Instability, 100 mana, instant 2-minute cooldown. Infuses your soul with unstable power, increasing your crit's chance by 30% for 20 seconds. So, out of this last tier, you have an option of Dark Soul Instability for single target or Channel Demon Fire for AoE fights. Very, very simple. Both are very, very nice. Channel Demon Fire, again, if there's multiple targets. Epic Battlegrounds, anything like that, go with Channel Demon Fire. Single target arenas, 1v1 duels, go with Dark Soul Instability. A little bit of a recap on that. Tier 1, go with Flash Over. Tier 2, Reverse Entropy. Tier 3, your choice, I rock Demon Skin. Tier 4, Cataclysm. Tier 5, your choice, I'm rocking Mortal Coil. Tier 6, Reign of Chaos. And Tier 7, Channel Demon Fire. Next up, we're going to go through the PvP talents going down the list, starting off with Focused Chaos. The passive ability, Chaos Bolt damage is increased by 40%, but no longer strikes additional targets afflicted by Havoc. You also have Cremation, passive. Conflagrate deals up to an additional 3% of the target's maximum health and fire damage if the target is afflicted by Immolate. Bane of Havoc replaces Havoc, 100 mana, instant, 40-yard range, 45-second cooldown, curses the ground with the demonic Bane, causing all of your single target spells to also strike targets marked with the Bane. Lasts 10 seconds. It's basically a better version of Havoc, Bane of Havoc. I forgot to say, Cremation, not really recommended. Focused Chaos is a nice ability. I didn't mean to have that still on my talent choices if you guys are looking at that, so I will be removing that. Just give me a little bit. Bane of Fragility, 125 mana, instant, 40-yard range, 45-second cooldown. Reduces the target's maximum health by up to 15% for 10 seconds. Not really recommended at all. Nether Ward, 100 mana, instant cast, 45-second cooldown. Surrounds the caster with a shield that lasts 3 seconds, reflecting all harmful spells cast on you. Decent ability. Essence Drain, passive. Whenever you heal yourself with Drain Life, the enemy target deals 5% reduced damage to you for 6 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. Useful ability. Casting Circle, 200 mana, 0.42 second cast, 1 minute cooldown. Summons a casting circle for 8 seconds while within the casting circle. You are immune to silence and interrupt effects. Learning Casting Circle causes unending resolve to no longer grant immunity to silence and interrupt effects. absolutely a crappy talent. If you saw my Demonology guide, you'll see how much I bashed that one. Demon Armor, 100 mana, instant protect the caster, increasing maximum health by 5% and increases armor by 90%. Very useful ability. Demonic Gateway Mastery, passive, increases the range of Demonic Gateway by 20 yards and reduces the cast time by 30%. Reduces the time between how often players can take your Demonic Gateway by 15 seconds. Very, very nice ability. I just wish I had more options to being able to use it. But again, I really recommend that you use Gateway Mastery, especially in battlegrounds, rated battlegrounds. It's just very useful getting your team from one section to the other section of the map. It's just so nice to have. I just wish if we had a fourth, it's just right there. If we had a fourth option for talents, I would definitely be getting Gateway Mastery. Fell Fissure, passive. Chaos Bolt creates a 5-yard wide eruption of fell fire under the target, reducing movement speed by 50% and reducing all healing received by 25% on all enemies within the fissure last 6 seconds. Very, very nice ability. And one of the best ones that's new, Amplify Curse, instant 45-second cooldown. Curse of Exhaustion, Curse of Tongues, and Curse of Weakness is now amplified, with Curse of Exhaustion getting reduced the target's movement speed by an additional 20%. Curse of Tongues, increasing casting time by an additional 30%, and Curse of Weakness, enemies unable to critically strike. I currently am rocking Bane of Havoc, Fell Fissure, and Amplify Curse. There's a couple of decent talents in here, and some that are just like, oh my gosh, don't even be bothered. But yeah, I'm currently rocking Bane of Havoc, Fell Fissure, and Amplify Curse for my PvP talents. As a Destruction Warlock, you're going to go ahead and want to summon your Doom Lord if possible, if you have and you meet the recommended requirements for the summoning. If not, you're just going to want to go ahead and utilize your Fell Imp or your Imp, depending on whether you have it glyphed or not. But again, that's just going to be your standard pet for DPS purposes as a Destruction Warlock. Next up, single target priority and rotation for a Destruction Warlock, the easiest spec to play of the three. You're going to want to maintain Corruption and Immolate onto targets at all given times. You're going to want to cast Chaos Bolt if you're about to cap out on Soul Shards. You're going to want to cast Cataclysm on cooldown when available. You're going to want to cast Channel Demon Fire on cooldown and whenever available if you have it spec'd. You're going to want to go ahead and cast Conflagrate if you have 2 charges. You're going to want to cast Conflagrate also to generate Soul Shards if needed. And of course cast Incinerate as your filler to go ahead and generate Soul Shards. Major cooldown for a Destruction Warlock is your Summon Infernal, very similar to your Tyrant as a Demonology Warlock. However, there's a little bit differences when it comes to Summon Infernal, but go ahead and utilize it when on cooldown. If you are playing with Dark Soul Instability instead of Channel Demon Fire, Channel Demon Fire, again, just use it on cooldown, but if you are rocking Dark Soul Instability on that last tier, you're going to want to be combining it with Reign of Chaos as much as you possibly can. So if the encounter is about 190 seconds or shorter, use Dark Soul on cooldown. If the encounter is about a medium-sized encounter, 190 seconds to 250 seconds long, delay Dark Soul for when your second Infernal is used. And then if the encounter is 250 to 380 seconds long, delay Infernal for when your third Dark Soul is used. When it comes to multiple targets or an AoE rotation, when it comes to a Destruction Warlock, it is very, very simple. Pretty much identical to your single target rotation. However, you're going to be including Rain of Fire as well as Havoc. As you can see in this video, I'm using Bane of Havoc. It's from my PvP choices, but of course, instead of Bane of Havoc, you'll be using Havoc instead in a PvE situation. So to get started, you're going to want to maintain and keep up on all targets, Corruption and Immolate. You're going to want to cast Rain of Fire if there are at least 5+ targets, and with Havoc up, or with 3+ if on cooldown. So again, Rain of Fire when you can with at least 3 targets, but 5+ are minimal. When it comes to casting Chaos Bolt, as long as you have 5 Soul Shards and you have nothing else to spend it on, go ahead and use Chaos Bolt, especially if you have Havoc up. Go ahead and cast Cataclysm on cooldown. Go ahead and apply Havoc if there's a secondary target present. So again, the main 2 AoE situation abilities that you're going to be using that you haven't used in your single target is Rain of Fire and Havoc. Just go ahead and add those in. You'll also be able to cast Channel Demon Fire when available on cooldown. Cast Chaos Bolt to spend Soul Shards. Again, I strongly suggest this. If you're sitting at 5 Soul Shards, 4 Soul Shards even, and you have nothing to use it on, Rain of Fire is being used at the moment, you have just nothing else to really use it on, again, you utilize your Chaos Bolts, especially teaming it up with Havoc. You get double Chaos Bolts, especially if it's Bane of Havoc, more than 1 Chaos Bolt. And then of course cast Conflagrate to generate soul shards for backdraft stacks, as well as Incinerate to generate soul shards as well as your main filler. And very easy AoE rotation for a Destruction Warlock. Again, you're just basically using your single target rotation, adding in Rain of Fire as well as Habit. Thank you very much for tuning in to the pre-patch for Shadowlands Destruction Warlock guide. Again, stay tuned for Shadowlands release. About a week or two when Shadowlands has been released, we're going to be doing some max level content. We're going to be working on the actual specs and covenants and everything to go ahead and prepare for our updated guides again when Shadowlands gets released. So stay tuned for that. This guide again was just a very bare skim on the spec itself. Things are changing every single day. New updates coming on beta every single day. Things are being changing. So without further ado, I'll catch you guys next time. Check out our Demonology and Affliction guides as well. Peace out, everybody. Have a wonderful day.